Misunderstanding. Can she define what she means by that?
Yes, if you look at what's gone on in Rotherham, where there are people taking young girls, grooming them for sex. Not to answer it, just how many grooming gangs have we got in London?
In the next few minutes, we'll unravel the mystery behind Sadiq Khan's baffling response to a question about grooming gangs in London. You'll see the exact moment that sparked outrage.
So are you saying we haven't got the same sort of gangs that are in Rotherham, Bradford and lots of other places in the country?
Just for you misunderstanding, what does she mean by that?
That is what I'm talking about.
We know in London there are issues about exploitation of young people, but they're not as defined by the member in her definition of what those types of gangs are.
You know full well what I mean by that. It's all over the television. You know exactly what I mean by that. These gangs of people that are grooming young girls for sex.
Hear from critics and supporters alike and discover the potential consequences of Khan's words. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. But that's not all. We'll also explore the deeper issues at play, from political maneuvering to cultural sensitivities.
I'm unclear, Chair, what is meant by the question. If you could spell it out, I can answer.
I've just spelt it out. Are you not listening? It's the sort of gangs that groom young girls at a young age for sex. Do we actually have those in London? Exactly how much clearer do you want me to be?
And reveal why this interaction matters for every Londoner and beyond. Stay tuned for a journey that will challenge your perceptions of political accountability. Sadiq Khan's recent interaction regarding grooming gangs in London has left many observers bewildered. When questioned about the issue, Khan's response was nothing short of baffling. He claimed, "I'm unclear to you what is meant by the question. If you could spell it out, I can answer." This peculiar statement has raised eyebrows and sparked a flurry of speculation about the mayor's true understanding of the situation. Khan's words seem to defy logic. How could the mayor of one of the world's most prominent cities be unaware of such a serious issue? It's a question that has left political analysts and the public alike scratching their heads. Some have suggested that Khan's apparent confusion might be a calculated move rather than genuine ignorance.
His Conservative rival, Susan Hall, who stood for London Mayor, she made 9 successive attempts at Mayor's question time to ask Sir Sadiq whether there were gangs operating. Sir Sadiq, as he likes to be called now, Sir Sadiq, has been accused of stonewalling questions about whether London has a problem with so-called grooming gangs. This is...
Looking closer at the exchange, Khan's body language tells a different story from his words. Experts have noted that his tone appeared defensive and his non-verbal cues suggested discomfort when pressed on the topic. This disconnect between Khan's verbal and non-verbal communication has only fueled further suspicion about the sincerity of his response. Political analysts have weighed in on Khan's tactics, suggesting that his evasiveness might be part of a broader strategy. One commentator astutely observed, the classic "I didn't hear the question" maneuver by Sadiq Khan, turning a serious issue into a game of political dodgeball. This assessment paints Khan's response as a deliberate attempt to sidestep a sensitive topic rather than a genuine lack of understanding. But why would Khan choose such a controversial approach? The answer might lie in the complex interplay between politics, cultural sensitivities, and public safety. By attempting to redefine the question and shift the focus to exploitation of young people in general, Khan seems to be trying to avoid acknowledging the specific issue of grooming gangs that has plagued other parts of the UK. This evasive maneuver hasn't gone unnoticed. Critics argue that if the mayor can't address such a critical issue head-on, it reflects poorly on London's approach to public safety and governance. The City Hall Conservatives have seized on this moment, demanding a London-level inquiry into grooming gangs. Their call for action highlights the growing frustration with Khan's apparent reluctance to engage with the topic directly. The consequences of Khan's words could be far-reaching. His evasiveness has not only raised questions about his leadership, but has also intensified the debate surrounding grooming gangs in London. The public's trust in their elected officials is at stake, and Khan's response has done little to assuage concerns about the city's ability to tackle this sensitive issue. While Khan's evasiveness has sparked outrage, it's merely the tip of a far more insidious iceberg. The shocking reality is that over 50 areas across the UK have been identified as hotspots for grooming gang operations, yet London remains conspicuously absent from official inquiries. This glaring omission raises troubling questions about the true extent of this crisis in our capital city. The statistics paint a grim picture. In Greater Manchester alone, a recent report revealed that nearly 100 potential abusers are still at large. If similar patterns exist in London, we could be facing a ticking time bomb of unreported cases and unpunished perpetrators. But why hasn't this issue been thoroughly investigated in our city? The disconnect between official reports and the harsh reality on the ground is stark. Victims and social workers have voiced their frustration over the lack of action and support from authorities. Their testimonies suggest a yawning chasm between the number of reported cases and the actual scale of grooming gang activities in London. Are we turning a blind eye to a crisis unfolding right under our noses? Law enforcement faces a complex web of challenges in tackling this issue. Cultural sensitivities often complicate investigations, leading to accusations of systemic failures within police and social services. How many early reports of abuse have been ignored or downplayed due to fear of cultural backlash? This reluctance to confront the problem head-on has allowed perpetrators to operate with impunity, leaving countless victims in their wake. The long-term impact of grooming on victims is devastating. Severe psychological trauma, social isolation, and difficulties reintegrating into society are just some of the scars these survivors bear. This isn't just about statistics, it's about the future of London's children and the very fabric of our communities. Can we afford to let this crisis fester any longer? Proposed solutions have included calls for comprehensive inquiries and better training for law enforcement on handling sensitive cases. Yet these proposals have often been met with resistance or lack of implementation. Why are we dragging our feet when the safety of our most vulnerable citizens is at stake? Recent investigations have unveiled a chilling truth. Many perpetrators of these heinous crimes remain unpunished. Systemic failures in the justice system have allowed these predators to slip through the cracks, continuing their cycles of abuse unchecked. How many more victims must suffer before we take decisive action? Khan's baffling response to the grooming gang question isn't just a momentary lapse, it's a symptom of a deeper political malaise. Londoners are growing increasingly frustrated with their elected officials' evasiveness on sensitive topics, particularly those concerning child safety. Recent polls show a sharp decline in public trust, with citizens demanding more transparency and concrete action. This isn't just about political posturing, it's about the safety of London's most vulnerable. The consequences of continued evasion are too high to ignore. As the story unfolds, we must keep a critical eye on how Khan and other leaders address or sidestep this crucial issue. Will they step up to the plate or continue their dance of deflection? The coming weeks will be telling. Londoners must hold their feet to the fire, demanding clear answers and decisive action. After all, in a city as diverse and complex as London, there's no room for willful ignorance when it comes to protecting our children.